With some buffs and quality of life changes, Rosalia would be a solid hero for all players. But for now, she isn't very good.
Point of this, there really isn't any point. So overall rating, I'm gonna give Rosalia a C+. 5% price reduction is just not good at all. I don't really know who would want it.
But after having more and more playtime on her to grow my opinion on her even further, she's the worst hero BTD6 has gotten without a doubt.
So clearly the community found Rosalia a bit underwhelming at launch, and if I'm being honest, I did too. However, Ninja Kiwi buffed her this update, and as the certified Rosalia guy, I knew I had to put her to the test in an advanced chimps game. And to fully test her new buffs, I decided to go with a strategy that would have been impossible without the buffs made this update, but I'll elaborate more on that in a bit. But for now, I figured it would be best to summarize what exactly got buffed and how it affects her gameplay dynamics. Starting with her main attacks, her lasers were completely unchanged, which makes sense because that was honestly her only attack that was any good. But her grenades got a few buffs to ceramic damage throughout all her levels, however no main damage buffs to them. It's honestly good the grenades got a ceramic damage buff because before that, they were useless after round 78. Moving on to her abilities, Kinetic Charge got a slight buff, nothing significant, but Scatter Missile got some much needed cooldown reductions. The ability took way too long to come back before, so this was very much needed. But the most important change to Rosalia was the buff to aircraft efficiency, increased from 5% to 10%. Now that still doesn't sound like a big change, but keep in mind that's an additional several $1,000s taken off of several Ace and Helicopter tier 5 upgrades. And so I decided to put this buff to the ultimate test by loading up Rosalia on Off the Coast and seeing if I could use this improved aircraft efficiency to afford a flying fortress in advanced map chimps with a formerly C tier hero. But anyway, talking about the changes is useless without showcasing how good they are, so let's jump right into the gameplay. So after a start with a base Dart Monkey and a 001 sub, I was able to get Rosalia on round 13, and in the next few rounds, I realized that her Scatter Missile buff didn't really make her any stronger because early game before all the Moab clumping and knockback, the only use of that ability is basically a panic button if something leaks, and since the grenade damage had only been increased to ceramics and not overall, there was no buff to her early game whatsoever. And as I progressed through the early game, I ended up getting a plane and a few other towers because I knew that the plane and Rosalia alone would not be able to survive long enough to get the Flying Fortress. But I also had to keep something else in mind, something that could potentially tank this entire run. Round 90. And that's because if I don't have the Flying Fortress by round 90, it's a guaranteed loss. Due to the properties of the DDTs, the Spectre's bombs can't damage them, and the darts can't damage them. So if I don't have the Flying Fortress by round 90, it's a guaranteed loss. But at the same time, I had to survive long enough early game to get the Spectre in the first place, and that was going to be tricky. Off the Coast is pretty easy as far as advanced maps go, but Rosalia's early game is still pretty weak. So with that in mind, I decided to upgrade the sub to a 402 Bloontonium reactor for overall balloon damage since that's something Rosalia struggles with, and for my never miss targeting plane, I decided to get a 300L. It would basically be useless once I upgraded it to Spectre, but the double damage plus the effects from Acidic Mixture Dip would make it way stronger early game. And as I got never miss targeting and started saving up for Spectre, this was the first time that a buff to Rosalia was actually useful because the improved aircraft efficiency meant that the Spectre was almost $1,300 cheaper than it would have been before this update. And just for transparency's sake, I would like to point out that I was intending to do this as a black border run, but I died once to round 37. However, that was because I had earlier accidentally set Rosalia to last instead of first. If I hadn't done that, the Scatter Missile would have been able to do it. So yeah, not a black border run here, but it was my fault, not Rosalia's. Anyway, round 40 came soon after I got the plane Alk buffed, and I thought the Moab was going to be an issue, but I switched Rosalia back to laser so the special attack would be the knockback one, and with her jetpack ability and her Scatter Missile, I was able to destroy it pretty easily. And after that, the 40s were an absolute piece of cake since the Bloontonium reactor with bottom crosspath destroyed everything and the plane nuked everything that was left. The first couple rounds in the 50s weren't too bad because even though there were a couple Moab class, between Rosalia's abilities and the fact that the Alk buffed plane has 3 Moab damage, I was able to destroy all of them. And on round 53, thanks to the improved aircraft efficiency, I finally got the Spectre, making the next 20 rounds extremely easy. And after this, I should have been able to kick back for a while and just enjoy the balloon popping as the Spectre destroyed everything up till round 80. But at the same time, I knew that this challenge would be pretty difficult because after round 80, the Spectre falls off hard, and even with this little of a defense, you can't afford Flying Fortress until round 85 or so. So I made a risky decision that would either save this run or jeopardize it depending on how the costs lined up. I bought a 400 Mermonkey just to help slow down all BFBs and help keep them in Rosalia's radius longer so she could keep knocking them back and so Spectre could do more damage. But the problem with this is that even though it's a very good value, it's still a 7k tower, meaning that I might not be able to afford the Flying Fortress until it's too late. And yes, the Mermonkey wouldn't have helped much with ZOMGs, but ZOMGs weren't the issue here because Kinetic Charge can deal with those. The issue was the swarm of BFBs, and if those were slowed down, I knew the Spectre would do better at cleaning them up. And with this setup, everything before 80 would have been free either way. It all came down to how well this setup could handle the 80s and whether I could get the Flying Fortress before round 90. Round 82 was the first kinda hard round, but thankfully due to the Bloons reactor, I was able to go top crosspath on the Spectre, meaning it did a lot more damage compared to going to the camo crosspath, so I was able to deal with all the super ceramics, even the fortified ones, plus a couple lucky knockbacks helped honestly. Round 83 was free because it was just super ceramics and Moabs, and round 84 wasn't hard because I set Rosalia on laser and set her on strong, so she just kept knocking back the BFBs, and that worked pretty well. Round 85 and 87 were also pretty easy. 86 also free because 5 fortified BFBs is not that hard. Round 88 got a little far, but I was able to deal with it. But then we ended up with round 89, the final round before I would be able to get the Flying Fortress, and at this point I still wasn't able to afford it. I was almost $2,000 away and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to make it. But right at the end of round 89 with just a few mobs left, I got the money I needed for the Flying Fortress, and after that the rest of the run was free. I grabbed an overclock, destroyed all the DDT rounds, and nuked absolutely everything. Flying Fortress destroys, especially with top path. So now I had the answer to my question. Turns out you can use Rosalia to beat chimps on an advanced map now with Flying Fortress, as long as you're not an idiot and don't do anything stupid on round 37 like have her on the wrong targeting. But that still doesn't answer my original question. Is Rosalia finally good now? And after doing this run and doing some other testing, I have to say, kind of. Is she better? Yes. But I honestly think Ninja Kiwi focused on the wrong things here. Let me explain. See, my issues with Rosalia weren't so much that her grenades didn't have quite enough damage or that her scatter missile didn't have quite enough cooldown, though I have to say the aircraft efficiency was a very good change, very needed, honestly clutched this run, it would have been impossible without it. But at the same time, it didn't solve any of the issues of Rosalia just feeling clunky to use. Is the weapon switching bad? No, but just the fact that she can't attack while moving is still a major issue, and the fact that she's kind of a support hero and kind of a DPS hero and still not great at either is kind of a problem. And don't get me wrong, I understand that Ninja Kiwi is playing it safe. I mean, after all, they just released her last update. They wouldn't want to go around changing too much, but all that aside, I still think she kind of needs a rework to either be more of a DPS hero or more of a support one. I don't know which would be better, but I think I would like either. But in her current state, she's better. Not good, but better. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And also, if you're feeling like supporting me even more, make sure to hit that join button and check out my channel membership. It doesn't offer too much, but it's only $3 a month. That's 10 cents a day. What do you have to lose? And if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy the video I made where I gave Ninja Kiwi some suggestions on how to balance Rosalia. Link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.